This here is a professional photographer's monitor. And you might be saying, what does it mean and why is this professional? What makes it professional? Well, you're gonna find out. It also has some very good features and specs for video editing, but I don't recommend buying this for video editing because this has some special features for photographers, and if you are one and you're taking yourself seriously, you probably should know about this monitor. Amazon Music Unlimited. I'll give you the best news from the get-go. If you sign up for the Amazon Music free trial through the links in the description below, you don't just get 1 month free trial, not 2, not 3, but 4 month free trial of Amazon Music. This is limited time only, so act fast through the links in the description below. So Amazon Music has over 100 million songs and podcasts, so whatever you're looking for, they've got it. Listen anywhere, offline and online, ad-free. Now you can also use your Alexa devices to voice command ask Alexa to play any song or podcast you want. We find it especially convenient when cooking in the kitchen. So sign up for the free trial right now through the links below and get 4 months for free. Limited time only, so act fast. It has pretty much everything you'd want as a professional photographer. So what are some of the things that we're talking about? First of all, this is a 27-inch 4K display. It is very, very color accurate. Let's talk a little bit deeper into some of the things. It is a 16:9 aspect ratio. This is an IPS panel and one of the best IPS panels that you can get because it also has something called uniformity technology, which basically means that they've made sure that the picture quality and color accuracy is the same all throughout this image. So you wouldn't have any vignetting on either of the sides, and the actual viewing angles are good no matter which angle you're looking at it. It's an LED backlit and goes up to 400 nits, which also kind of spaces itself into the HDR category. It is HDR10 and HLG supported, but when talking about the high dynamic range, this is usually more for video, and I don't really recommend this monitor for, HDR editing or content consumption, even though it does support it, but you can get the same specs for much cheaper, and this is meant for photographers, which you'll see in a moment. For HDR, when I was checking the HDR and testing how well does it look and how does it work, even though it's technically is HDR, it puts the display into the PT 2020 color gamut, and I connected my ProArt StudioBook 2023 to it with just one USB-C cable, which is pretty awesome as well. And then you can see that even the laptop included screen actually produces a better HDR image just because of the IPS panel and the coating. The blacks aren't as deep black as some of the OLED panels. That's why this isn't really for video editing, but this is photographers. Photographers, there's something to get excited about. It's got 1000:1 contrast ratio, 60 Hz panel, and it supports 10-bit color, but it is achieved through 8-bit plus FRC, which basically means, if you don't know, that the panel itself can support or make 8-bit color by its pixels, but the pixel around that pixel can flicker slightly different color, which actually blends the light into a kind of a different or shade in between, which means that it can also support or showcase 10-bit color. It's just a clever way to support 10-bit without actually having a 10-bit panel. But at the same time, for video editing, this might not be ideal because of the moving pixels. You'll have a lot of things going on and you might not get the perfect effect for this. But for photo editing and still images, you're gonna get a really nice blend of 10-bit colors. As you can see, for example, this in there, you'll see a very, very nice picture. But one of the biggest amazing thing about this panel is the fine coated anti-reflection coating on this monitor. The reflections on this are so minimal. So compared to like the laptop included screen you can see on this footage, so when you're actually looking at it with the shades on, it really shows you only the picture and no like reflections, whatever is going on in the room, which makes this very, very professional. So for example, if you've got it in the studio, if you've got lots of lighting going on, or even ambient lighting in the studio, whatever designs, you don't have to worry about sacrificing some of the picture editing or viewing quality, but just because of what the lighting is like in the room, it still looks absolutely amazing. And that is also very, very awesome for printing. And we've got to talk about this printing aspect here, because I'm not sure if there is a better monitor to showcase your printing results on the screen. So as a photographer, you know that when you're trying to print, seeing the final print on the screen as color accurate as possible is like one of the most important things. They've got lots of clever technologies as well and software with this that you can actually sync kind of the printer you have to some of the monitors you have there to like uniform this or make this even more efficient to showcase what the actual printing quality will look on the screen. But because of this fine coating, this makes it look like a bit like a paper, so it isn't as glossy as like you would see like a computer monitor. That makes it even easier to get your printing perfected and actually see the results on the screen. But now the main thing that you're paying for with this monitor is the color accuracy. It's Kalman and Pantone verified and supported, Pantone skin tone verified, and all sorts of like all the color accuracy labels that you can get or ticks. It's got them, which is just amazing. BenQ has something called the AQ color or AQ color, like accurate color basically, technology, which just makes sure that all the colors displayed on the screen are as accurate as possible, and you've got like the uniformity all around the screen as accurate as possible. So apart from all of the verifications and validations, this monitor comes with a color calibration report from the factory. Right, and the color accuracy, if you didn't know, is measured by delta E. And delta E less or equal than 3 is basically very hard to notice a difference between two different colors. So if you've got monitor and monitor that support like the same color or displaying the same color and both of them are delta E equal 3, then it's very hard for a human eye to tell the difference. If it's less than 2, it's absolutely insane. So this color accuracy paper here shows an average delta E of 0.42. The maximum is 1.98 at some point. It is absolutely insane. So basically less than 1 means there is no perceivable difference for experts when comparing two colors side by side. See, there we go. And they have got a big sheet of things where they've showed the uniformity test, where they've tested the color accuracy all throughout the monitor here. On this paper, they show it all in here, like how accurate this is. Apart from color accuracy, we need to talk about the colors that it supports, or the color space, or what's also called the color gamut when it's displayed on the screen. It's 100% sRGB and Rec. 709. It is 99% Adobe RGB and 99% DCI-P3 color gamut, which basically covers it all in photo editing in Adobe and sRGB, as well as video editing when we're talking about Rec. 709 or some of the more wider color gamut, a DCI-P3 or BT 2020, something like that. It supports that. The guaranteed color accuracy is equal or less than 1.5, which is just insane spec for a monitor. Now I want to talk about also the actual usability and some of the features that come with the monitor. One of the things that you already notice on here is the shade that comes with the monitor. This is absolutely amazing, and you can see already from this picture that the actual light that comes on the side of these shades just really disappears into black. It's got some like a soft black suede type of material all the way on the top and side. You can see a little bit of reflection in the corners there where we have like a bit of a plastic there, but the rest of the side just, it's like a black hole of light that doesn't reflect at all and just focuses everything onto the screen. Absolutely amazing. There is extra pieces that come with it to make sure that you can actually have this also set up in portrait mode if you want to see this in the studio in a portrait mode and you want to see straight away, for example, the pictures on this screen is absolutely supported, because you can connect your camera directly to the monitor and then see the color accurate, results on a big screen if you wanted to. I have been personally using the BenQ PD3200U monitor, which is a little bit of an older monitor, which also has this puck, and this is quite an amazing thing. So this is basically like a little remote for your monitor that allows you to quickly switch between a few different things. So there's a knob in the middle, as you can see. It directly starts adjusting the brightness, which is very, very helpful. There's 1, 2, 3 presets which you can configure in the settings there, but you can flick between different color gamuts very, very easily. I press 3, it goes to black and white, color mode black and white. I flick to 2, it goes to sRGB, I flick to 1, and it goes to Adobe RGB. That's how easy it is. You can easily change the inputs of the monitor in here as well by flicking on the side, and we can change to USB-C, DisplayPort, HDMI, and going back, if you click on the actual knob, you can adjust loads of different settings in there, and it's very easily understandable menu there, and you can easily switch through them, and it's not very complicated like layer upon layer upon layer. It's very easy. It's got a little button in the front there as well, which actually just showcases the info of the current settings you have. Right now we can see that brightness is 100%, white point is 6500K, gamma is 2.2, Adobe RGB, input is USB-C, it is a 4K 60 Hz refresh rate and resolution, HDR is off, and that's that. You can adjust any of these presets to whichever one you want. So let's say you don't use black and white and you want to use something else, like, I don't know, DCI-P3, then you can easily go there. It also supports MBook color gamut, which just basically matches any MacBook Retina screen. So if you're using a MacBook, you can plug in through USB-C. It will kind of match the MacBook screen with what's on the screen displayed, which is amazing as well. The monitor also has a software called Pallet Master Ultimate, which allows you to do even more fine adjustments if you're an ultimate professional, like I would like to call it, because that takes it to another level. It also supports a 3D LUT of 16 bits. So if you want to make even more adjustments to some of the preview images that you want to see, then it does support that, as well as some of the adjustments in gamma and hue and all sorts of fine little details that if you need to configure them, you can do that through that software. That also supports hardware calibration for the screen. Now you do need to have the hardware calibrator separately, but as you can see, like a little latch, you unslide that, put the hardware calibrator through there in the middle of the monitor. Then you can double check the color accuracy through the calibrator on the screen. Now I mentioned this already in the printing bit, but they have something called paper color sync technology, which basically allows you to see on the screen your printing as accurately as possible, and they've put so much work into it to make sure that this is as accurate as possible. And through the Pallet Master Ultimate and some of the printers that you might have, you can actually sync them together to make them even more fine adjusted. The cool thing is, if you can't decide which color gamut you want to see on the screen, you can actually have a split screen. One side that shows sRGB, for example, the other one DCI-P3 or whatever. So you can actually split the screen to 2 separate color gamuts, which is called dual gamut preview, which is amazing for photo editing. Let's say you want to see sRGB and ARGB on side by side, you can see that. Let's talk a little bit about video, because for video editing, this has some impressive specs as well. I mentioned the DCI-P3 color space. If you're working with log and raw footage, you've got a large color space that you're working with your video. You can actually have a P3 color preview for video on this monitor. So you can connect your camera through some of the Blackmagic Deck link, I think that's what it's called, and then actually preview the video that you are shooting live. Very accurate color, you can see it live, which is pretty amazing. And the HDR support with HDR10 and HLC, which is quite amazing as well. So when previewing video through the likes of a Blackmagic Teranex Mini SDI to HDMI 12G adapter or converter, then this display supports 444, 422 and 420 video playback, through the pixels basically, which is absolutely amazing, if you want to see that. But why I don't think this is really meant for videographers is just that even though having amazing and accurate color specs for videographers as well, I don't think this is the best for videographers, because the price range is just meant for absolutely high-end photographers. If you're a videographer, I'd probably get a bit of a different monitor, just because getting better HDR support, getting a real 10-bit panel and color space and some of the other bits that videographers need are not exactly the same as like printing, because videographers don't need to print things, but this is really for photographers who need to capture something, edit it as accurately as possibly, and then print it and deliver it and see it all on this monitor. That's how this is like meant for photographers' workflow. But for videographers, I think you're paying for specs that you don't actually need, and you can get cheaper or better for the same amount. But if you're a photographer and you're thinking this is a little bit more expensive, there is a budget option available, which we'll talk about in the conclusion of this video. Now, this monitor comes with plenty of inputs for video as well as some of the inputs for data. It's got an SD card reader, and there's 2 USB Type A ports as well as a jack port underneath for some audio, or if you want to attach speakers through 3.5mm jack, then you can do that through there. On the back of the display, we have one DisplayPort 1.4, 2 HDMI 2.0s, and 1 USB Type-C power delivery as well as video output. There is also a USB uplink port, which basically supports those USB Type A ports in there, as well as the SD card reader. But if you already have a laptop connected through USB-C, whether it be in a MacBook or Asus ProArt StudioBook, for example, what I have here on Windows, basically a laptop that supports USB-C video output as well as power delivery, you can do everything through one cable. So through one cable, we're powering the laptop 90 watts. I know this is not the maximum, power charge that this laptop can take, because the power brick actually is 240 watts, but for MacBooks or Apple products, it is much simpler. You actually do charge your laptop as well as getting full performance on there. So some of the Windows laptops, you might lose some of the performance because this is just 90 watts rather than 100 watts or some more, but that's pretty much the limitation through USB-C or Thunderbolt 4 right now. Through that cable, we also get the SD card reader and the Type A ports working. All this data can be transferred through that. Now, there is a little caveat that it is not the fastest when plugging in SD card when you only have the USB Type-C port or one cable connected. When you have one cable connected, basically these two are running at USB 2.0 speeds, and when transferring files from an SD card, for example, that supports 300 megabytes per second read and write speeds, we're only getting roughly about 30-40 megabytes per second read speeds from the card. When you have the laptop connected through HDMI and the USB uplink cable, then it uses the HDMI to transfer video signal, and then the USB uplink to actually make this monitor into kind of like a hub for the SD card reader and the Type A ports. Then we're getting a little bit of faster speed of about 80-90 megabytes per second, which is UHS-1 speeds, which I would have expected this monitor to support at least UHS-2 speeds, and getting much faster speeds when you've got faster cards. You're a professional photographer, most likely you're running very fast speeds. If you have SD card, you might have CFast cards or something else. But for a V90 cards, for example, you want a UHS-2 card reader that supports like 300 plus megabytes read speeds from the card. But unfortunately, this is kind of like a last resort. When you forgot your card reader, for example, and you come back to the studio, you can still read your cards through this monitor and power the laptop, but it's just a little bit slower than some of the professional card readers. The monitor stand is absolutely amazing as well. So it is on like a spring, so I can push it down and push it up. It's perfectly balanced, so you can go, I'm hitting the wall there, I can't go much higher. I can have very good viewing angles, whether I want to have the monitor quite high or quite low. It also goes to portrait mode, so on this stand it does support going into the landscape mode, like going on the side. And if you do want to move the monitor, there is a nice handle built in on the back there. You'll have to hold on to the handle and to the bottom, because when you lift it, the spring basically pushes it down, because the monitor is heavier and this is perfectly balanced. You have to hold it on the bottom of this stand and then the handle on the back, and then you can adjust and move the monitor around, which is just a nice thing that they have thought about when, for example, you're shooting in the studio and you want to put it on a moving card or something like that, or on another table. You can easily move that through that, which is amazing. I like that the monitor isn't actually black, but the monitor is gray. The actual color of the monitor is kind of like a matte gray, and I like it a lot. It's kind of the similar thing with this puck that just makes it very, very professional. And you've got this nice different material in front of the monitor stand here that you can use for your SD cards, for your puck, for your mobile phone, or whatever devices that you can put there. It's a little bit of a softer material. It's not exactly leather, but it's a little bit softer plastic, so your devices don't exactly slide around as easy. It also comes with a nice microfiber cloth that I like to store in there. In conclusion, the usability of the monitor is absolutely amazing. The viewing angles are absolutely amazing. Very small bezels as well, all the way around. It's very, very professional, nice monitor that helps photographers to just produce the best content in their workflow. The pixel intensity, the color accuracy just makes it the best photographer's monitor on the planet. Now, there are a few different options that you can choose from when going with this monitor. You can go with slightly more affordable version, which is the 27-inch, the same size, but instead of 4K, it's a 1440p monitor. Essentially, all the other features are pretty much the same. And then you can also go with slightly larger monitor if you're interested in getting even bigger panel, the 4K panel, but 32-inch panel, so bigger than the 27-inch here. You can do that as well. So depending on your needs, whether you're not bothered so much about the pixel intensity, or you need to save a little bit of money and you need the color accuracy or the larger screen, BenQ has these options available for you. I think this 27-inch is a nice in the middle option where you have still very, very accurate colors, very, very nice pixel intensity, because with 32-inch, you start to lose that pixel intensity a little bit. And the 1440p on this one, you also notice the pixel intensity that isn't there anymore. But if you are a videographer and you're thinking, oh, this sounds good for me as well, I would say don't buy this as a videographer, because I think there are much better options for videographers or video editors that want to get a really nice professional monitor for them. Let me know if you want me to also cover some good monitors for videographers. I'd love to know from you in the comment section below. Last thing I forgot to mention is that if you do already have monitor stands, it does support VESA mounting in the back there. There are 100mm holes in the back there for VESA mounting. If you have already like multiple monitor stands or something like that already installed, but you want to upgrade this in there. My favorite feature is the USB-C. Through one cable, we can get just the power delivery, especially for Mac users. The power delivery, data delivery, picture delivery, everything through one cable is just absolutely amazing, as you can see in there. Now, if you're a photographer or a creator and you're wondering which PC should I build, and perhaps I want to actually build something that's really good for my workflow, check out the PC build guide in the description below. I've got the best bang for buck creator builds down there. Whatever your budget is, check it out. There is a video down there for you. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll meet you in the comment section below. Bye bye.